Welcome to Every Night is Game Night, because we all love game nights with our family and friends. But when you play solo games, then every night can be a game night. Check us out along with other great podcasts at dicetowernetwork.com.
Every Night is Game Night, episode 96, Kickstarter Roundup, Ninth World, Stellar Leap, Perdition's Mouth, The Shared Dream, and Carthage. Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome back to the Every Night is Game Night podcast. I'm your host, Jason. Thank you so much for joining us. You have returned to another mega Kickstarter pod, a Kickstarter roundup. It was so much fun last time that I had to gather the band back again. I'm hoping that whenever we have a pile of Kickstarters on our doorstep, we can gather these two individuals so that we can chat about them and let you know whether they are worth seeking out. First, we have ENGN regular contributor Liz Davidson. Welcome.
Hey, I'm happy to be here.
And returning to talk about some Kickstarter goodness is Jeremy from Jambalaya Plays Games. What's up, buddy?
Hello, party people. Thanks for having me back.
All right. Yes, you got your scotch poured in the background. You got a little jazz and
ready to go.
Ready to go. So, like I said, we've gathered a bunch of Kickstarter delivered Kickstarter. So these were Kickstarters, I guess, either last year or early this year. They've delivered. In one case, it's a little bit of an earlier thing, but, we'll just lump them all in there. The five games we are going to review this week are Ninth World, Stellar Leap, Perdition's Mouth, Abyssal Rift, The Shared Dream, and Carthage. The thing that all of these games have in common, besides the fact that they're Kickstarters, is that they are a little bit under the radar. These are from smaller publishers, and we at ENGN are very, very happy to provide all the support we can, not just to the big guys, but to the little guys as well, or little ladies, depending on which project it is. But yes, we are very excited to bring these games to you. But first, we have Liz live and in the flesh. She is going to tell us about a game, and we actually are both looking at this game, so we can really trust Liz on this one. So Liz, go ahead and tell us about the latest Kickstarter product that is live right now before we get started.
Yes, naturally you can trust me. Okay, so there are a lot of really big Kickstarter projects going on right now. There's the Dawn of Zed's reprint, there's Snowdonia, Thunderstone just dropped, but I want to draw attention to Rurik, Dawn of Kiev. It's a game about becoming the ruler of Kiev by constructing buildings and expanding your influence, and it's an area control and resource management game. But it also has this really interesting mechanic called auction programming. So you have these advisors, and you deploy them to perform actions on this central strategy board that everyone else is using too. And basically, if you use a lower numbered advisor, your action goes off first. But if you use a higher numbered advisor, you get more out of your action. And a lot of the game is planning really carefully the order and efficacy of your actions. And they've also got an automa system going that they're still testing that sounds really exciting. It's designed not to be random, but to actually give you a challenge as if you were playing another person. And this just seemed like the sort of project that could get overlooked right now, and it just looks so interesting.
All right, so I have to disclose this.
Go ahead.
And I really haven't been commenting on it that much because the person who made that game, Stan Kordinsky, is my friend. He's a very close friend of mine. So
what? We just did that. That was total on accident.
Yeah, I can't say much. So I haven't been reviewing it. I haven't asked to review it.
You're compromised.
I am 1,000% compromised on this. And also I know Kirk really well too. So it's I can't, he's Peacekeeper Games. So it's I can't really say much, without sounding compromised. But I will say it's fun. I am playing it live this Friday on Board Game Revolution during a live play. And you can check it out then. I can't really say anything for the solo mode because that was they were working on adding it. I know that Kirk is really big on that. He did that with Gearworks, which is their previous project, which is an awesome game, by the way. And the solo mode is very intense. So if that's going to be the sign of what's to come in this one, I expect the same, to be pretty demanding. And he said to me with confidence at Origins, he didn't think of me, but he always said, I like the fact that you wanted a challenge, so I thought about making it super challenging. He always takes solo games he starts solo modes by making it as hard as possible and then working backwards. So he wants people to know there's always going to be a challenge at first.
All right.
So
The live stream is going to drop on 7/20. The episode is going to drop on 7/20. So for that one day, if you download the episode, you'll be able to go over to Facebook, the Board Game Revolution group, and check out Jeremy and the very long at this point Liz We Trust Kickstarter segment. But thank you very much, guys. That sounds like a project that we're going to take a look out for. Okay, so let us get to some Kickstarter, delivered Kickstarters. Although this first game, this first game has been delivered, I believe. Right, Jeremy?
Yeah, it has.
Okay, so we are going to talk about the Ninth World skill building game, or skill deck building game, something like that?
Yeah, it's a skill builder. That's the trick.
There you go.
Okay, thus the long, weird name. Okay.
So what's the official
Ninth
name?
World, a skill building game for Numenara. Like, that is a very long title. So Ninth World's Lone Shark Games, they made Apocrypha that just recently delivered, let's say like last year. I think they got more expansions for that. This game is built around the Numenara tabletop RPG, and it's actually true to its name. It's called a skill builder, which is a little bit different than a deck builder. What you're doing is you're taking one of your characters and you're going through one of the territories that's in the game. There are 9 territories. What do you know, right? Ninth Worlds. Each territory you would choose one for a game. That means it would be 5 rounds, or you can cycle back up the same set of cards to make 9 rounds. I'll be honest with you, there's almost no use in playing the game for 5 rounds. You can't get the skills built. What you're doing is choosing these characters, and I'll be honest with you, they have like quite a big range of characters on here. I think about 15 of them, and they basically have 2 skills, and then they also have like a superpower. And this is how the round goes. Even in the multiplayer game, solo game, cooperative game, you'll have 5 cards. 2 of them will match the traits that the skills that the person that you chose has, and then you'll have effort, tinker, charm, combat, and focus. And all these skills are actually colors that match the phases. Okay, so what you'll have is you'll start with a whole bunch of 1 skills. All right, and instead of like a deck builder where you just kind of like paying and then you grab a card or whatever like that, you're actually using those cards to bid for that round, to go for that round. So let's say for Scout, I'm sorry, I should say this. You have, what you're doing is simulating going out of town into the wilderness, or going out and dealing with things in your town. There are 5 cards laid out just like a market in a deck building game. So you're actually seeing 2 sets of 5 cards in front of you. Like, hey, I want to attack this. Hey, I want to scout this. Hey, I want to do that. So in a scout round, when you bid, you're actually bidding cards that are the same or not the same. What you'll have is you will have a scout card if you bought one or you focused up to one. But you'll have multiple cards from different skills because you want to pay at least 1 skill to beat out the other person. Like maybe you just want to play 3 cards or whatever. And then what you can do is in the Scout, you can chase cards that are out in the wilderness by claiming them and putting your little tokens on them. And all that means is for the rest of the round, you can manipulate them or in the future. It's kind of like you're journeying out to that side of the board. Really, it just means that that's the away market, and then there's the home market. Mm-hmm. Tinkering is like where you get these, it's the green card, and you get those cards, and you can pick up skills. So you pick up other skills, you beat these cards. When you beat them, they give you points, and they also give you additional skills for combat and focus and things like that. Claim is like little mini quests on the card, and they actually have like little levels on them, which is kind of interesting. So you fulfill certain conditions, and then you get to move up a level on that card, and then you score points. Then you move up a level again and score points. And these can trigger multiple ones of those. Kind of interesting too. Then they have the combat round, which is very simple. And then you have the focus round, which is where you start to upgrade your cards. You'll have 3, in the beginning, you'll have 3 dead kind of, just like a regular deck builder, like bad cards. And you can use your focus or effort to upgrade them. What happens is overall, this game is really just 5 cards that you have. You will never not have more than 5 cards. You won't change your cards. You will develop your cards and level them up. So the whole idea is to score as many points by taking out quests, going to combat, taking on ciphers, because they all score points when you use them. But the trick to the game, especially in the cooperative game, is scoring enough points to stay into it and constantly score as the rounds go, because it happens pretty quickly, and you can only upgrade certain cards at a certain point, to a certain point. So if you don't, with the cooperative part, you actually have to reach a threshold by X amount of rounds, and it's like, I think the 3rd round, 5th round, 6th round, and 9th round. So it gets real scary because both of you have to reach that threshold, not one, both. Mm-hmm. And the solo play is a little different too, because really all you're using is your character, and 3 other characters, and you're using their skills as like a +2, and that's it, and then you toss them out. So the solo mode, not necessarily the greatest. I would just play it co-op, because the co-op actually works really well. It's real challenging. But the solo just feels like, I throw this card away, I feel like you need to make more decisions when you have the cooperative, because it puts, you got to separate your pressure a little bit. But overall, I think the game is really cool. I don't necessarily know. I haven't gotten too deep in playing the different territories that much. So I've only played like 4 of them, of the 9. So, and they just change up the conditions of what you can and can't do that round. But the big management part of it is claiming cards and knowing when to not claim cards. But the rest is just really just beating stuff up. And, it's just something to wrap your head around versus regular deck builder games. It's the same 5 cards, skill building.
Is that something that you're looking forward to, Liz?
Yes, I actually am, but I'm looking forward to it because Jeremy's been talking it up so much, and I've been looking at all these cool pictures on Facebook. So I'm pumped.
Yeah, I mean, it's, what the thing is actually it is hard to explain because of the way the concept of deck building is more so like pay. I get that card. Well, you're paying with your cards to upgrade your cards, and then they stay in your hand. You just get the next level up of whatever card you chose, and it's a thing that kind of like, you're like, oh, I'm not doing this right, and you'll find yourself not doing it right because you're used to that deck building thing, and it's not the same.
It's like, so I think of Mystic Vale, where you have the same cards, but you do the actual card crafting where you're sticking in the little extra cards, and you have this like Uber card. Is it something like that?
Yeah, you know what? The thing is like, yes, it is, but you'll never like discard your 5 cards. Like, they will just be your 5 cards for that round. Mm-hmm. So let's say you upgrade to like level 2 of a card. You have to pay 2 of any card to level that 1 card up. You still get back to the same 5 cards, but you still have, now you have an upgraded combat card. So it gets a little like, oh, which one am I going to upgrade? Which one do I care about? Because in a multiplayer game, you're actually bidding to go first for a round. So let's say it's the combat round. If I have a level 2 combat and a level 2 focus and a level 2, I don't know, whatever other card, the other cards are worth 1 point and my combat is worth 2. So there's like a nice little nifty thing in the multiplayer version, but you don't feel that as much in the cooperative part. And, and they have it like where it's like you're bidding for it, which is kind of to me, but I'd be willing to give it a shot. But I do think this game is pretty solid for a cooperative game. I don't know if it has a super long game where you're going to want to get this on the table all the time, but I do like it. Okay. Yeah.
All right, so that is the 9th World. Thank you, Jeremy, for covering that. The next game that we are going to cover, so this is from Weird Giraffe Games. The game is called Stellar Leap. Liz, has this delivered yet, or did you just get a look at this at Origins?
So I actually got to test it out and pick up a review copy at Dice TerraCon. The game is in the process of shipping, so they are at the fulfillment centers, and everybody's just waiting for them to get sent out.
She, by the way, sorry, she literally like got those and then stuffed them in her car and drove down to Origin. So yeah, she actually had pictures of her car, and it was just like stuffed with boxes of Stellar Leap. So yeah, she's right there.
So yeah, the designer of Stellar Leap is Carla Kopp, and I actually interviewed her about Stellar Leap. If you want to see like a short 5-minute interview talking about solo modes on my YouTube channel, Beyond Solitaire. But Stellar Leap is basically like a really light 4X game. It's supposed to be about 20 minutes per player, and once you know what you're doing, it really can be that quick. And I really appreciate that. But what makes it the most interesting for me is that Carla put so much thought into the solo modes. I mean, she's a thoughtful person in general. Like, you can tell, like, in the design of the boards and stuff, like, everything fits the cubes just right. There's a lot of anti-knock stuff built into the player boards. You know, we had a conversation about when you do manufacturing, you should ask to have bags with holes in them as opposed to not, so that you don't have to like pop them back open to let air out. Like Carla is very detail oriented, but I love it so much about her. But her game comes with 3 different AI solo opponents. Yep. So there's one called the Overpopulator that just tries to edge you out of all your planets. There's one that ends the game quickly, so you have to try to get a lot of points in before the game ends faster than you might prefer. And there's one that attacks you. But what's interesting is that not only can you play each of them individually, but you can mix and match, and you can change the order in which their turns go. And each time you do that, you will get a different game. So it's like simulating an experience of playing with multiple players who have different strategies. And it can be very challenging. It's something I've been really enjoying.
So what kind of game is it, Liz? Am I area controlling? Am I deck building? What am I doing?
Again, it's Light 4X, so it is basically kind of like a Star Trek space exploration game. So every turn, you get to choose to do things like populate, explore, and develop resources and stuff on new planets. Or, and this is pretty light, if you outpopulate someone on another planet, you can attack them and like make their people scatter to other planets, but they don't actually lose population. It's just about actual control of the space. So, you're developing resources that allow you to grow, explore, move from one solar system to another, and, then kind of fight other people for your territory. And all of those things, come together. Your ultimate goal is to get prestige points and, be the most prestigious species populating the galaxy. But there are a lot of different ways to get there. And even though you have a lot of control over your actions, there are enough random elements in the game to keep it different as well. Like you can trigger interesting events that can be good, or, they can be pretty unpleasant. And when you get resources, there's actually this sort of interesting Catan-like mechanism where you roll 2 dice. So you put your planets and asteroids under die cards, 1 through 6. And what's really interesting is that you can either score resources off of the individual value of each die or the sum of both dice. So you actually want to put planets on high values and then put people on them because your odds of getting a 5 or a 6 total are a little higher. And there are also die manipulation powers, one that is universal to everyone, one that's specific to your species, that will let you kind of work things to your advantage on your turn. So you're never just stuck. There's a lot of things you can do, but there's also a lot of situations the game will throw at you to make it interesting.
Mm-hmm. Jeremy, did you have a chance to play this at Origins?
So, no. But, I filmed with Carla because I really, really was excited to meet her in person because we've talked quite a bit. And she, because I helped her out with Fire in the Library. Mm-hmm. So I went there and I filmed Sterile Leap because I was excited about it. I didn't touch it. I was kind of behind the 8-ball on that one. But one thing I came away with that after talking to her and filming this video was like, these AIs are really, really good. And one thing I liked about Scythe was like you can actually make other AIs and stuff like that. And immediately I was like, this is exactly what I want. I want a 4X game, and I like the fact that I'm going to get some challenge from different AI opponents at the same time, which is great. And I know she really does care about solo mode because she only had one for Fire in the Library, and then she went back and made another one. So she does care about this solo stuff, and she's even asking questions about that right now as for the next game. So she does. She really does care about it, and she asks the people, what they think about it. And I like that she takes that in the example, but she also owns it on her own. And I like that about her. She is a very detail-oriented person and a really good decision maker for the most part, I feel.
Yeah, she puts a lot of work into your experience as a player as well. So, there are all these AIs, and you think, oh, that's complicated. Actually, no. They're just these simple cards that do specific actions. It's very, very easy upkeep. And the idea is, is that she wants you to get back to being able to take your turn, which is obviously the most fun part, rather than like handling all of the AIs. So, she also really puts a lot of thought into making the AI management experience intuitive and easy for you as a solo player.
And
Carla.
Well, I hear 4X, and 4X to me means long.
Nope, this is a light one. It is short. Yeah. It is quick. So if you want like an intro level 4X, or if you want like a quicker 4X experience, I would say that Solar Leap is like a nice little starting point for that.
Yep. So, and by the way, Weird Giraffe Games now called Tech Raptor Games.
It's Galactic Raptor, right?
Galactic Raptor. They are pretty much specialized on like that hour gameplay. So, I don't know if this one's, I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, I know that's kind of the move. The move is like try to keep it to an hour, and still have a nice meaty gameplay and good decisions. That's kind of like that. That's what she's looking for in her future games too. So,
all right, very cool. So that was Stellar Leap, and we are going to move from 2 lighter games to 2 big fat heavy games, adventure games. So this is where I'm going to be leaping in. So the first game that I'm going to be talking about is Perdition's Mouth, Abyssal Rift. So this was a Kickstarter that launched. The original Kickstarter launched basically the same time as the first launch of Gloomhaven. So you may not have heard of this one. It was kind of like eclipsed by the bad year blimp that is Gloomhaven. So it's, still kind of getting the word out about this one. So I was able to get a copy of it. And then I think they're going to relaunch a little bit later in the year. So if you're hearing about this and you're wondering, oh man, I can't get my hands on it, this will launch a little bit later. So we wanted to get the word out about it. But while we have the opportunity right now.
I'm so happy to hear that because this is one of my regrets. So that I didn't back it.
Okay, I'm about to make you a little bit more jealous over here because I'm going to talk about.
I get my chance though, so it's good.
Spoiler alert! It's a pretty good one. Okay, so this game was designed by Thomas Klausner, Timo Multamaki, and Kevin Wilson. The previous 2 gentlemen are European, and I think this design definitely reflects a European sensibility, both in terms of art and mechanisms. We'll get to that in a second. This is a fully cooperative dungeon crawler for 1 to 6 players. We've been talking about solo modes a lot. Watch out, solo players, because you pretty much have to play 3 characters in order to be able to do the missions in the game. There are worse games when it comes to managing the 3 characters. It isn't that much stuff, but it is like a hand of cards and a player sheet. So you're going to have clear out a lot of table space if you want to play this one. Okay, so the setting is European Gothic horror. European in a sense of like, it's not like glitzy. It's not, Bela Lugosi, or Dracula's not like handsome like Tom Cruise or anything. Like this game is like bloody and really like, you're going to get a little bit of, nudity, and you're going to get, and that horror version, like, torture people and everything, twisted, mangled things. And, it's a summoner. They're summoning like this insectoid god, and the minis are all like, the minis are amazing quality, by the way, just like getting that out there. If you are a painter, you may just want to pick this up just for this game, because the minis are cool. Mini are not level like the others of like these gnarly creatures that just, they will kind of get into your head a little bit, or like Kingdom Death Monster or something. Having said that, I wouldn't say this game is thematic. This game's a Euro. This is a Euro game. Like the theme is kind of lends to the style, so that kind of gives you the immersion that way. But it's not like a thematic game. It's like it's not like one of those games where you feel like you're entering a dungeon. And I'll tell you like kind of what they're trying to go for. So what they're going for is really a mechanism heavy experience. So it's a Euro. There's 2 mechanisms that, in terms of the Euro feel, that really stand out. So the first one is like the players' characters themselves. So you have the player characters. You have your basic stuff. You have your stats and your movement and everything. You have hand of cards, which you can use to buff actions. But the trick in this game is that the heroes don't like start at this like little weenie level and get better. No, they start as good as they're ever going to get, and all they can get is worse. So people are really like, they get into it and it's like, oh, this is pretty cool in the beginning, but then you get wound cards. And then as you get wounded, the wound cards kind of, they're negative cards. They enter your deck. They kind of plague it. Like, any deck builder gets like these curse cards or whatever. So then you also get your stats diminished. So like now you have less actions on the turn. Now you can do less damage. It's like, oh man, this is crazy. And we had the design with Timo on the show, and I asked him about it. He's like, well, in like, well, how does it make sense to like smash a rat and then you become like smarter or more charismatic? That makes no sense to me. If you don't smash that rat in time, he's going to bite you and give you disease. And the stuff in like, you know, the wound cards are like, you know, here, spliced artery or vasectomy. It's like, oh my god.
Whoa,
Whoa, what?
You know.
that's a Kingdom Death monster.
I've never encountered a rat who could achieve that one,
Like-
but okay.
Yeah, they're like when you read in Kingdom Death Monster, they'll be like your genitals are smashed. You're like, oh my god,
Yeah,
no.
that is this game. That
Oh,
is
no.
yes.
I can't believe I just read that. It's like, oh.
And speaking of that, like, I mean, the atmosphere of the game is hard, and the progress, it's negative progress for the characters. Like, I mean, there's just so many ways in which the game presents this challenge. Like, a little tiny sentence, and I didn't quite know what I was getting into until I read the sentence. So, like, the enemies win ties. Like, in order to beat whatever challenge in front of you, either to hit a monster or to, you know, open a door or you know, whatever, you have to beat the number. And I know from my experience of games like Space Hulk, Death Angel, when the bad guys win the ties, that's not good for you. You're going to have to really work hard in order to be able to do this thing. So there's that level of challenge there. And, you know, it's not like a glorious Ameritrashy thing that's happening. It kind of flips it on its head a little bit. So the second thing, and this is germane to like the player experience. So the action system. So the action system, normally you have kind of either your hand of cards or your dice, and then you're interacting with the board. That's basically it. In this game, they kind of introduce a third element, which is a rondel. So all the actions that you can take are on this rondel. So if you guys don't know what a rondel is, it's kind of like a pizza pie, right? And each slice of the pizza pie what? What are you laughing for?
I'm just enjoying the pizza analogy.
Yes. Just go with
like-
it, man. Just go.
There's the mushroom slice and the anchovies.
Yes.
I'm not mixing this up with New York
Yes.
slice.
Tell us more about the toppings on this rondelle, please.
Lots
So
of
on
anchovies, this one it sounds like.
So on this pizza pie, so basically, like, every character is going to occupy space on the rondel, and the space is going to indicate the action that you're going to do. So you can either run, or you can run and attack. So that's going to be a separate thing. You can defend, and you can rest, and these are all different slices of the pizza. And the thing is, you can't. So the reason why it's on this rondel is that you can't spam the abilities. The designers were really hard on that. It's like, you know, like, they don't find fun, you know, just like run, smash, like, you know, just kind of do that freely. They really wanted this kind of effect of a dance where it's like, okay, you just did the space where you ran. Okay, so you ran. So now the person who's behind you, they can't occupy that space necessarily. So they have to kind of move ahead on the rondel, and they are going to attack. So they better darn well be in position to attack. And if they're not, then they skip ahead, and they have to spend some of their action points to kind of skip ahead if they're going to do something else. So, like, you have to, you know, really look at this rondel and plan out what you want to do. So if you are 3 turns behind, you really need to be able to prepare yourself and say, okay, I want to attack, but I might not be in range. Hey, you know, please don't occupy the movement square that I need, or else I'm just going to be sitting back here doing nothing. And that is death in this game. It is such death. So the level of cooperation that has to happen in order to be able to execute a good raid is really, really high. You can't just, like, you know, kind of go off on your own. Like, you have to ask your friends, okay, please do not occupy that space, or conversely, please occupy that space so that I can skip ahead of you and do the thing on the rondel that I need to do. So very, very interesting.
That's interesting.
In a way. So in terms of how, have you guys played Terra Mystica?
Yes.
No.
Okay. So Terra Mystica, and I know Anthony's not on the episode. Anthony's ears just pricked up. I know. And any other
He senses
level
a disturbance in the force.
I know. So, like, when you're playing Terra Mystica, right? So you have your player, and you have the board, and then you have your, like, things that you have to do in order to affect the board. So, like, you're moving your tokens, you're moving your like, to this space and this space and this space, and you're moving, you're turning all these gears in order to be able to just make any impact on the board whatsoever. So if you don't turn the gears correctly, then you won't be able to do what you want to do. This is basically that feeling, right? So there's a third thing that you're spending a lot of your time in this game staring at that rondel, where in a game like Sword and Sorcery or Descent, you're just like, running and chucking dice and everything. You're doing the same stuff, like you have to kill monsters, but what this allows you to do is if you can kind of combo your stuff effectively, you can create all sorts of like crazy stuff that happens. So like, I'm going to set this up and I'm going to go here, I'm going to go here. And then all of a sudden you have this turn where it's like move, bang, move, bang, move, bang. And then like half the stuff is dead. Where in another game, it would have been kind of monotonous, right? Where it's like, move, attack, move, attack. You've built this up in this game. So, so like I said, is that a positive? If you are a Eurogamer, if you're a lover of dungeon crawlers like Legend of Andor, or if you love the hand management of a game like Gloomhaven or Mage Knight, then this game is like right in that wheelhouse. And I actually think this game is better than Legends of Andor in the sense that in Legend of Andor, it was such a puzzle that it almost punished you for like doing cool stuff like killing monsters. It's like, oh my god, I killed the monster. I brought about the end game. I hate that feeling. I really do. In this game, it's still cool to kill monsters. It is still cool. And when you execute the 5 moves that you need and the coordination that you need, you've done the stuff on the rondel, you can actually it feels really, really good. So that is both a positive and a negative depending on what you like. So if you just want to run up and bash monsters, this is not the game for you. Despite how cool some of the minis are and all that kind of thing. Another negative, and this is the thing that kind of got me. I like the game, don't get me wrong, but the thing about movement is that you can't move through characters, and you cannot shoot through characters. So if you guys are in a hallway, and the hallways aren't very big, but like they're there. If you're in a hallway and you don't get the movement right, then you are literally just like sitting there. It's like I'm trying to get or like you execute a move. Yeah, there's no ducking. You can't duck in this game.
As I say, you can't do like the dance club movements where you just kind of slide through people.
No, that like the airline seat movement. Move, it's like, move. Do I give him the crotch or the rear end? Fight Club reference. There you go. No, you cannot move through people. You cannot shoot through people. It is like you can think all you want, and that kind of messed me up because I'm used to doing that. So like I would respond to do all this coordinated movement. All of a sudden, my wizard character is in the range. Oh wait a minute, my fighter's in the way. Wah wah. Oh, it's like darn.
So does that like you normally think about? Fighter, tank, they go front. Range people in the back. Like how? I mean, do you put your ranged characters in more danger by putting them in a position where they can strike in the hallway?
And that's kind of what happens. Like you have to calculate that risk, because when the enemies go, it's a little bit random in terms of what they can do. Like sometimes they have their own wheel, and sometimes and they pull from a deck of numbered cards, and if they pull one action, then the enemies will do like one thing, and that one thing could be move. So you're looking at the enemy thing going, okay, it's likely that they may only get 1 or 2 actions. They're basically going to either move or spawn. That's really going to happen. Let me use that to send in the wizard, and then the warrior can catch up. So you're planning all that out. And sometimes they pull a 5 and they can do 5 things. Then that's not so great. But that doesn't happen all the time because the average thing from that numbered deck you're going to pull is a 2. So you can kind of plan for that. So that's the answer, right? And also there's variable turn order. So if I think some players didn't really realize that, like when you listen to the reviews where it's like, okay, we spent the entire time stuck in the tunnel, nobody could move. The stupid tank has the armor on, which is treasure, which is -1 action point. It's like, oh, he just stood there. It's like. So then, the answer is coordinating movements better. But even if you're coordinating your movements, you could still get those empty turns. Of like, oh, I didn't do my movement correctly. I didn't plan. I didn't look at I didn't stare at the rondel with enough brain burning power. And that might be a little bit of a deflating experience for people as well. And that's, that's something I had to get used to. If, however, that sounds good to you, if that challenge sounds good to you, then I'm going to definitely recommend this game. So what do you guys think? You guys are both interested in the project. I know you guys didn't play it, but does that sound like something that's unique in this space or appealing to what you guys want?
I think it sounds cool. I really like puzzly games. I've actually really been enjoying Dungeon Alliance, which is like, oh, let's go in a dungeon, but you're like managing this one hand for all of your characters, and you have to plan out when you play the cards and how you move people around. And, you know, I enjoy those sort of puzzly fantasy games. So this sounds like it'd be up my alley.
Yeah, I like the thing that I'm looking for now is, and this goes with a lot of these campaign-ish games, is just what kind of puzzle does it bring to me? And like that, I mean, it just sounds like you're loading me up with a lot of the things that I like. And even though it has like that seems kind of wonky kind of management as far as like you can't go, I like some of that. It actually makes you think more, you know, and it gives you that time to say, hey, like I need to really figure this out because I know what's coming, or I know what I'm going to make react to me. So yes, that stinks, but it's just like playing an RPG, you know, game where it's like, I know that's the rule, so I have to figure out how to move this around. And you know, and that's great when it ramps up too, you know. So,
so it's very punishing when you get there's one-shot missions and then there's longer scenario missions, and they're pumping out content. They're always pumping out like scenarios and everything, new maps. So when as you progress through the board, and you can do less and less. So like, you know, that's another thing. Like you can coordinate all you want, but like you only have 3 action points. You're spending action points to move on the rondelle. So it's like I'm moving to the rondelle and I have no action points left to move. It's like, oh. So it can be a little bit defeating, kind of, especially towards the end when you should feel glorious, quote unquote should. So that might be a little bit of a put off for people. I'm saying this, like any criticism that I have are basically like preference things. Like there are people who do not prefer that style of dungeon crawl, but if you do prefer it, I think that it really does deliver a good experience. Okay, so it sounds like you guys are looking forward to it. I know I'm here. So people are like, but I can't get the game right now. I mean... Just look
cool
forward
kids,
to it.
Hashtag cool kids. Hashtag cool kids. I have this. You should check it out. I give you a strong recommendation.
That's right. Just look out for it. Just put the flag on the Kickstarter when it'll launch a little bit later in the year. If that sounds interesting to you, that is Perdition's Mouth. Abyssal Rift. That is a mouthful of a title.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next game that we're going to talk about actually goes, it's an adventure game, but it is exactly the opposite of the game. You could not get more different in terms of an approach to adventure games, where the previous game was more like Legends of Andor puzzly. This game is called The Shared Dream. It is designed by Matthew Teruli and published by Odam Publishing. This game is a through and through Arkham Horror Ameritrashy adventure game. So Odam Publishing is an acronym for Of Dreams and Magic, which is an RPG setting, which seems to be a theme. I didn't even do that on purpose. And Jeremy reviewed the Ninth World. You know, I'm going to review Of Dreams and Magic. So this is an RPG setting, but it's not like a classic fantasy type thing. It's modern fiction where it follows the lives of regular people. But these people are like special. They're called anima, and they can kind of make things happen in the world with their dreams. So like, let's say you're just like a regular schmo, but you can dream up your dream self. Now I'm a spy. Now I'm a superhero. Now I'm all, you know, all this other stuff. And you make that happen in the world. So you can kind of flip back and forth between the two. And you have to, because there is a threat called the Doubt, and the Doubt is something like these nightmare creatures. And the nightmare creatures are horror themed. So like, you know, there's werewolves and there's killer clowns and there's, you know, like these alien body snatcher type things. And you have to like kind of fight, you know, dreams versus nightmares type things. So like when you go into that dream space, you're going to get pretty imaginative and pretty funky. So that's definitely the tone of the RPG. What the board game does, it puts that into, like, basically ports it almost directly into the board gaming space with this kind of Arkham horror-y type adventure where it's a modular board and you're kind of walking around, and that's what you're doing. You're just regular people, you know, visiting different areas. You're going to summon your dream person. So like your dream person could be like, you know, like I said, superhero, whatever it is, interacting with the spaces on the board. And then those two characters that you manage are going to be fighting whatever the nightmare creature is, and there's different scenarios. So that's kind of the overview of the game. There's a couple of things, you know, it sounds like, I'm going to say, like, just to kind of, for expediency's sake, there's a lot of Arkham Horror here. There's a lot of like visiting spaces and
little stories,
doing stuff like that. Yeah.
There's little story elements for. I'll just kind of chime in for this. There's a little bit of like story elements to each scenario. So they have a little deck. I can't remember the name of what it's called, but it's like they unlock their own personal story in a sense during the game. So it's kind of interesting to see, like, because I guess what it is like they are like they can float back and forth, and because of that, these monsters are coming. So there's like kind of experiences where they're trying to figure out their story in the dream or where they're at, and like I just found that part was what really hooked me into the game because of that potential. And there's an expansion they have to this that is sort of like, you know, everybody's own individual story. And it's 10 stories, and it's just like that character's full story. And I'm like really interested to just go out and just grab that right away too, because I just think this game is just doing something interesting. It does have an indie feel. It's not like the most dead sexy game on the planet, but I do love the art. No, seriously. I don't want people to be like, I think this game is just it is beautiful, but you gotta think like it's not gonna have Gloomhaven touch to it. It's not gonna have is super high produced. I can tell it's some of the best they put out. And then they did that Age of Kings right after that and blew it out of the water. But I like this game a lot. I like the people behind it, which is something I want to support too. I always support the people behind the games as well. But it seems really easy to pick up, but I like just the stories that are inside of it. And character development is sometimes essential to making these games that have campaigns and scenario basis work, you know.
Yeah. So in a game of like Perdition's Mouth, like there's not a lot of story. There's really not. There's a lot of like, and there's even like, you know, little snarky stuff. It's like, oh, you just got your genitals chopped off, ha ha. Yeah. Like the wound card will mock you or something like that.
This is a theme.
That's as far as the text will go in there. Here, what Jeremy's describing, and it's one of two things that makes this game really unique. It's the personal reflection deck, and what happens is you'll pull the first card. It's like the small deck of cards. It's very individual to your character. You pull the first card. It tells you where on the board you start. Do you start at the voodoo shop? Do you start at the park or whatever? And it reads a story, and then it says, go to the next space. So like, you know, I woke up and, you know, I'm covered in blood and you know, I'm in the middle of the park and I know what's going on. Go to the voodoo shop and see what they can tell you. And then you go to you venture through the, you're moving your physical figure to the board. There's trash mob. You have to beat them and everything. But once you make it to the voodoo shop, you pull the next card, and then the next card says, you know, the voodoo practitioner in there says, you know, you have strange aura, go to the boxing gym and ask the trainer there. Yeah. And it goes through that whole story, you know, and everybody has a different individual story. At the end of it, you'll get like this uber weapon that you can use to beat the scenario, or something cool will happen if you can make it to the edge of the end of the story. So you're trying to finish your personal reflection while managing the trash mobs. And the trash mobs are these little nightmare creatures that get summoned around the board. So that's the kind of short-term, long-term that the game is kind of pulling you. So then the heroes, I think, Jeremy, you also mentioned this too, how you can summon your own demons. Yeah. Which is so you have a stat called Conviction, and that's how you do cool stuff. So you can have up to 1 to 5, and as you're doing the cool stuff, you can summon your artifacts, you can get, you know, armed up, you can, move faster and, you know, change for more conviction. But every time you use it, you flip the token and it becomes part of your nightmare track. And that goes up to 5. And at the end of the turn, you do a check, which is a roll of a d6. And you'll be rolling a lot in this game. Not gonna front.
You are rolling.
You are rolling. Keep rolling.
Say, hey, check one time. If you pass that, check again. Okay.
Yes. You are eventually going. If you fail the nightmare test, and the more nightmare you have, obviously, the more likely you're going to fail the test. You're going to summon a monster who's going to attack you directly. If your nightmare is too high, you're going to summon a Reaver, which is a more powerful monster, and these things are sick. So you're probably going to get messed up. So you really want to try to manage that. I love that. So like, that has the story elements of, you know, and it's pretty engaging story. It's kind of a one-shot deal, so like you can't like go to the same reflection deck again. If you know what's in the reflection deck, you know where you're going. So, but there's a lot of different scenarios, so that's how the game kind of gets around that, like a lot of different scenarios. And if you're playing the solo, you can kind of do different, then you have to play 2 characters, and you can do different reflection decks. There's a little bit of replayability that way. But the management of your good stat into your bad stat, managing that, like, okay, I want to become my animus, my superhero thing. But oh yeah, it takes conviction to do that, and now I'm gonna summon some crazy nightmare creature. So maybe I don't want to unleash my good character right away. Maybe I want to rest and take my nightmare off and see that there's that interesting tension every single turn. So like you want to make sure that nightmare track is nice and low. Really good pushing back and forth. The stories are interesting. The played a couple scenarios. Played the killer clown scenario. There was like so and
oh god.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
there's some gnarly stuff that happens. So it's like you're resting in the hospital. And all of a sudden you see a destitute person in a clown outfit. It's like, oh god, I know what's happening now.
You can stay destituting over there.
So obviously that's another game I recommend. My one criticism of the game, maybe you could speak to this too, Jeremy. I feel like there's a little bit too much administration. Like the enemy turn takes a long time. It's multi-step. So like you have to move the characters around the board. You have to put up taint, which is like the mechanism that spawns the monsters. You have to do your nightmare test. You have to do your boss test. And then at the beginning of your turn, you get these like buff cards, like echo cards that are like buffs and deals. That's a lot to do every single turn. So I felt like it took me a very long time to kind of get back in the action. The fact that it happens every single turn was kind of it kind of took me away from what should be kind of a light flowing game. In Arkham Horror, there's multi-steps to the mythos phase and the monster phase, but like not every monster moves and attacks. Not every monster has to be managed. Right. And the story deck is usually one card as opposed to like the boss, which is like does 2 or 3 things. I feel like they could have done more to just smooth that out. And This is not a deal breaker, but I think you'll feel it. Well, I felt it.
Okay, so I haven't played it. I did watch a couple of videos on how it's played, and I think I agree with you on that because I was thinking to myself like, wow, this does seem like a lot of stuff going on for the other side and not the player side. But overall, I think the game is going to be solid because I was just kind of, I guess I was honestly just kind of blowing the whole lid off of it and starting to read some of these cards, and I was just like, this seems really cool. This is telling a good story, and I'm really excited about it. Now, I should tell everybody before you go, there is a sale for this game right now. If you go to the Odom Publishing site, they had 40% off the all-in package right now for the summer sale. So I think you get the entire thing, the entire campaign, all the stuff for $139. And then if you are a solo player like myself, you can get the Crux collection separate from the base game for $20. So it's $64.95 for the game, and then you can get the separate one for $20. So that's, I mean, honestly, I think it's worth it just by, like I said, before I even got to this game, I'm excited about it.
As a story-heavy game, the replayability is going to be a little bit limited. It's like Time Stories in the sense that like there's the story and you play it and you're kind of done. But I feel like there's enough mechanical rich depth there where you might want to just revisit it just to kind of have fun. So like you can play with different groups and play the same scenario and have fun. Like, I've played the Beast scenario a couple of times as the first one. Just because I know what's going on in my personal reflection, it still makes the game is still fun because I have to manage the conviction and the nightmare. So if you're worried about replayability, it is a worry, but I think it's pretty good. So I can give it a recommendation. I liked it. I really enjoyed my plays. Liz, I know this wasn't on your radar before. Is it something that, as a puzzly person, there isn't, it's much less here, but is this something that would be appealing to you?
Maybe. I mean, I'm an Omni gamer. I will play. Just if it has a solo mode, I will try it. That's basically where I'm at. But I don't know. Maybe it's something that I'll have on the radar for the future, but it doesn't sound like an immediate, like I must have this right now kind of thing for me.
Like Perdition's mouth. Sorry about that.
Fine, I won't send it to you then.
Ouch.
Fine.
So that was The Shared Dream by Odam Publishing. At the end of the day, yes, a recommendation with some of the caveats that I had presented. Okay, so we have arrived at our final game. This is a game that we have all played. Liz, would you like to take us through a basic description of Carthage?
Sure. Okay, so Carthage is a gladiator game that involves tactical movement around an arena, but the mechanic for doing damage, for gaining crowd favor, and for moving is done through deck building. So You, and if you're playing with other people, each player, you will draw 5 cards from your deck, and then you will each play 1 card at a time in turn order until you are out of cards. If you are playing solo or co-op, you will play against an app. So you will play your card, and then the app will do something back to you. There's some other elements. There's in the multiplayer game, there's a theater phase where you overturn a card that has a special effect on the round. And then at the end of a fighting round where you've played out all of your cards, you take all of the crowd favor that you've earned over the course of the round, and that is the currency that you use to either, take first player action, thin your deck, or purchase new cards off of a market row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a pretty straightforward game. I mean, think Hoplomachus Origins in terms of the hex map and the gladiators kind of moving forward, but instead of a dice system, it is a deck building system, and basically every single thing you do is based on the actions of the deck. There's also like if you get like the Kickstarter version, and I think that you can get that, not even this Kickstarter version. Like if you just go to SAS Publishing and look at what they have to offer, there's a lot of modules in this game. Like you can put in, different buffs. You can put in player elimination kind of alternative, like Arena Beast. Like all of a sudden you can play a beast, and you can have equipment. And there's a lot of like extra stuff in here. So in terms of like your bang for your buck, you are going to get a decent amount. So far, I think this is the 10th game that we have covered on the Kickstarter kind of pods. 9 of them we've liked. What are we thinking about Carthage?
I think this game is beautiful. It's sexy. It's got a lot of options, a lot to choose from, but it's a boring game. And it doesn't sell me on the excitement other than like I'm looking at the cards and I'm waiting for those moments on the cards. I don't feel those moments when I'm playing them. I feel a little strategy, but I also feel a little strategy because if you do get a higher player counts, it's going to get bloody. There's not a lot of room. It's a cause, it's got that down. And if you add some of the scenarios where there's like the crocodiles or whatever, like it puts pressure on the players. It's just that like, I never was excited, and nobody I play with was excited as well. I don't know. I could never really get in touch with it. One thing I know that was glaringly weak to me, every game I played, it was almost like we were playing cards to chase each other down.
Yes.
And I found that very strange. I was like, this is not how it should end. It should be heavy, climactic, very in your face. Bam, you're dead. Like decapitation. Well, we did that, and that sounded cool. It took 5 minutes to do that in an extra round, and I was just like, eh.
Yeah, we had issues with movement as well. Basically, it was like when there are 5 players on the board playing on the base rules, I mean, it can be pretty tight at the beginning because there's 5 people moving around the board, so nobody can just run away and be in the corner. But when you're down to like 2 players, then it just becomes a lot easier for someone to kind of run off and get hard to catch. Maybe they have some healing cards in their hand and they just kind of like wait for them to cycle around, which like makes sense strategically, but it's not fun.
Right.
And, I really wanted to like this game. I really wanted to like have that. I love deck builders. I love gladiators. It sounded like a recipe for success, but I mean, the best response I got out of my game group was it's okay. It's fine.
That's how I felt. Yeah, I felt like it's okay. Then when I saw the solo mode and the co-op mode, and I just was like, oh, the mode is really just an app that looks like a Batman kick punch pow wow. Like it's like no, I'm fine. Like I'm fine. Like I could have just took the deck that's inside of here and just flipped over random cards. It didn't do it for me.
So, okay. So this is my experience of the game. So I think there were a couple things that this game does pretty well. It's definitely taken some lessons from deck builders in the sense that a lot of times in like the earlier generation of deck builders, you'd buy cards from the market, but you wouldn't have like the market wouldn't line up with your favor. So like your currency. So like you have 9 currency, but you can't buy cool stuff. In this game, there's a lot of different options to like do different stuff. You can, spend 1 to get the first player marker. You could spend 2,
right.
3 to call your deck. You can use always something to do with the favor that you generate, which I thought was pretty cool. A nice little spin on that. So, I mean, just in terms of like, the awareness of a deck builder, and it is fun, like at a higher player count, at least, you're when things are in front of you to kind of hit.
I guess the best way, I think the one thing I want people to know is that this game has good systems in it. There's nothing wrong with the way the game is built. And as a matter of fact, I think that if someone else played this and they were excited about it, I totally understand. But for some reason, the game leaves such a dead point to the end of the game. In the 5 to 7 times I played it, I was just like, I can't do this. It doesn't feel rewarding at the end. Just because let's say I'm the person that kills 3 out of the 5 people. That's great. But then, like, if I'm just chasing down the last person and they chip away at me 1-1-1-1, I don't know. It just and it happened at least 3 out of the 5 times I played, and I was just like, nah, I can't do this, man. I can't.
I would actually slightly disagree with that in the sense of I think there's a design issue, and that is that movement is on the cards. So you look at Clank. Like Clank, you can move, and all your movements are on the cards. But you're not chasing anybody, so it doesn't matter. Like, you just get as far as you get and do whatever you do in the thing. And here, the movement, not only is the movement on the cards, you're playing cards one at a time, like in turn order. So you play one card, you move. And then the next player, someone got next to me, I'm going to play my movement card and run away. So let's say you only had one movement card in your hand, and just because of the luck of the draw, even if you bought a bunch of movement, you might just kind of get an empty hand. You're good. You can have your whole hand kind of negated because another person played a move card right after you. I found that especially frustrating in solo. So Liz and I got together. We played pretty, we just played again and again and again. So like to make sure that the solo. No, we got to play this again. We got to make sure the solo bot works. The solo bot moves a lot. So I ran into case after case of, I'm going to move next to him, and then the next turn I'm going to hit him with my big opening card, which is like one hit, get 3 favor, which you have to hit in order to buy anything. And the guy would move. Or
he would move, hit you, and then keep moving so that then you also had, so like you get yourself positioned to hit him. And he just like slaps you in the face as he goes by. Like, like he's driving, which would be, I mean, it's not that you want to have some like easy like milquetoast opponent when you're playing solo. Solo players like a challenge, but there's a difference between this is challenging and this is just an exercise in frustration.
Right. I'm all down with randomness. I'm just saying fundamentally it needs to have somewhat of the simulating the same punch that you start out with. Like, I'm going to come in and we're going to swing it out. You're going to die. You're going to die. The tigers here, you're going to die. Like, I want that feeling, and I want the pressure that and it doesn't stay there, and that just, that's not going to do it for me. That's just not going to do it for me.
I taking movement off of the cards might have made it more interesting, or maybe have cards that add to your movement but not make your movement entirely card dependent. I mean, the other thing that I actually would have liked to see, I mean, I'm a Roman history nerd. I can't help it. I teach Latin. So I would have actually liked to see, they give you these different types of gladiators. Some of them were designed to move slower and some faster. Like a Retiarius, the whole point is that they're running around without any armor on, trying to outrun and outdance, a more heavily armed opponent. It would have been cool to have them have base movement and then maybe build on movement or do something, with cards. But just making movement entirely dependent on cards, it was tough. And
the fact that you're playing cards one at a time as opposed to play your whole hand.
Yeah.
So because if you played your whole hand, you could move, attack, and whatever. So I think there's some people who are really enjoying the game. I think they're doing that. Just you play your whole hand, just kind of get your wax in and everything. I think I could imagine the game kind of working that way, but that's not the rules of the game. And I think the response would be okay. Like Perdition's Mouth. I just finished talking about how if you don't do your movements properly, then you're gonna get stuck and you can have the empty turns and everything. But I felt like with the rondelle system, you can always kind of plan 2 or 3 or 4 steps ahead. So, and you have variable turn order. Like, there's all sorts of ways in that the lack of movement or the complication of movement is mitigated there. Which, as a pure adventure gamer might get frustrated, but you can kind of puzzle through it. This game, there's not a lot of puzzling through it. The anticipation, the solo bot is very random. I didn't feel like I was anticipating anything. And in the multiplayer game, you can just run away. So we don't want to be here like, just like, this game is terrible. Like, like there's people who enjoy the game, and we this is a small publisher and, put a lot of heart and soul into this game. So we want to definitely give it as much of our honest opinions and, kind of put it out there as possible. I think what Jeremy said was true. Like there's an audience for this game. I just felt like for us, these are the things that we noticed and they kind of got in the way of, a full experience.
And I want to be clear, like, if there's a game, I mean, I'm the captain of positivity. If anybody knows me, that's who I am. Like, I was really excited about this game. Love this theme. Love Hoplamok. It's one of my favorite games ever. And I was thinking, like, okay, this might be a little bit of alternative. It's lighter, and it's got different mechanics to it. I like deck builders because deck builders are really hot right now. And I just could not stay with it. And then when I kind of play with that solo co-op mode, if that's what you're looking for this, I just can't suggest it. But I would say overall, there's so much that you can do with this game to manipulate the weapons, mini expansion, the beast, the setup restrictions, all that stuff. It's there. I didn't explore all of it, so I can't comment as if I know all of it. But I would just say I played it enough. I didn't play it once or twice. I played it more than once or twice.
Yeah.
And I just came away dudded from it, like dud, so.
Yeah, and like I want to show respect for this game because, every game is somebody's baby. And you can tell from the art and from, a lot of the design elements that somebody put a lot of heart and soul into this. And, I appreciate that the game came with so many interesting little modules and like different things to change, advanced rules. That's a lot of thought. I do think that the multiplayer game is much, much, much stronger than the solo and co-op, and I think that part of that is, from what I can understand, that was a late added stretch goal. And I think this is one of those things that happens when you want to offer something extra special on top of all the other things you're already offering, and it just doesn't quite get there.
But even then, like the multiplayer game, like you still have that problem, like the movement. The movement I still feel is very constraining, and
still there.
You just run, you run away from each other, and there's no real. I think the way you put it when we were talking was like there's no real impetus to get to the middle. Like in some of the Hoplomachus scenarios, there's like King of the Hill, so you have to like you can't win until you're at the center square and you maintain your position there. And I imagine you could do. I mean, you could there's room for that in this game, but it's not baked in. And if you're just kind of playing it out of the box. And the goal is, okay, kill each other. Yeah, that might take a while. Okay, so that is Carthage, and that is our roundup of a lot of delivered Kickstarters or pending Kickstarters. we can't help ourselves. Like, whenever we get together, like we have a little channel, we get together. It's like, I played this. Oh, wait a minute, I played this. Like, oh my, wow, how long is this episode going to be? We hope that you enjoy all the content, all the games that we're bringing you. And Liz, Jeremy, please come back anytime you guys have some stuff showing up at your doorstep, which Jeremy in particular, if you follow his Twitter feeds and Facebooks, every couple of weeks, you're going to see the picture of the this is what happened at my door today. And it's like,
by the gods. Oh my God.
I'm just quieter about it. It's okay, Jeremy.
I love you, but Jambalaya Plays Games is not a network. It's a man. It's one man. I love you, but I am one man.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you guys very, very much for taking the time to join us.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on once again.
All right, that will be another episode of Every Night is Game Night. You can please interact with us by joining our Facebook group. You can hit us up on the Twitter, ENGN_podcast. Also, we have a geek list where you can find all the episodes. You can comment and, interact with, let us know what you think of the Kickstarters that we've delivered. Let us know what you think of, Carthage and Stellar Leap and all these other games we're talking about. Cool. So yes, well, before we go, please do us a favor, give us a rating on iTunes, 5 stars or however many stars you think we deserve. Every rating helps us, bumps us up in the algorithm and get us to the top so that we can share all about this gaming goodness with as many people as possible. So as Anthony would say, go ahead and grab a game off of that shelf and let's make every night a game night.